all my fantasy football friends out there. Welcome to the Multiple First Dynasty Football channel here on YouTube. Coming back at you with our Week 8 NFL breakdown. We took a week off. There's a lot going on. It's the Halloween holiday season. I am your host, Tony Stash X on the Sleeper app, coming to you with my co-host, Greg the Velociraptor. How are you today, sir?
I am still a little sleepy, man. We are getting to you guys early in the morning today on just to, pull back the robe a little bit. We're getting you very early on the morning of Tuesday, November 1st. And I was up and out late with my kids last night, supervising some trick-or-treating and everything, and got a little bit into my cups. And yeah, but we're still here. We're still here for the listeners. How are you doing today, Tony?
I'm doing quite well. Yeah, I have. I'm bacheloring it up right now. My girlfriend and our little one are out of town, so I've just kind of been enjoying the solo life for the last couple days. I'm excited for her to bring back a bunch of candy from trick or treating with her out of town family. So.
Oh, I love it. That absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Oh, it does. It certainly does.
It does. We're also here recording the morning after your Browns got a big Monday Night Football win. Boy, that was not how I thought that was going to go. I thought the Bengals were going to put up a whole bunch of points, and they did not. So how you feeling about that? How you feeling about
the
team?
Awesome about that. I mean, it's pretty amazing what happened. Myles Garrett looked like such a freak. Like that first sack he got on that spin move was nasty. I just felt so bad for the Bengals left tackle. His name escapes me. But boy, Garrett's a stud. The Browns look awesome. That was easily the best game they've played all year. And it makes you feel good, but it's like, as a Browns fan, you can never feel too good, unfortunately. But I want to take the W and feel great about it and not be negative about it. But it's like, yeah, they look great though. Cooper was looking great. The defense was looking awesome. Yeah, the O-line looked good. Kareem Hunt was still pretty involved. Jacoby Brissett looked awesome. I saw him keep the game ball at the end. That was cool. He deserved it. But just a dominating win over the Bengals, who the Browns have like kind of quietly owned the last few years. Joe Burrow's never beat them, so that's interesting to follow moving forward.
What a weird division, because both the Bengals and the Ravens kind of feel like Super Bowl contenders, and then also sometimes look like Super Bowl contenders. And then it's like you look at the sum total of their work and they're not. And that leaves the division open for the Browns. Even for the Steelers with TJ Watt coming back, right? Like that defense, they have a different way they can play. So it's a very interesting division. And the Browns getting back to 3-5 really got back into the discussion there.
Denver got a big win this week. How you feeling about your Broncos? They won across the pond.
They did the same thing your guys did, right? Like I feel they got back to 3-5, and you absolutely cannot feel good about how the first half of the season's gone, right? But if they got a bye next. If they scored over 20 points for only the second time this season, right? In some ways, that was the best offensive performance of the year. So, like, if they come out of the bye and get an upset win against the Titans on the road, then they follow that up with the Ravens. With the Raiders and the Panthers. Man, you could get back to 6-5 and be right in this thing. Like all you need is to stay alive until sort of the offense gets right. Just like all the Browns need is to stay alive until they get their quarterback. It's that, probably unlikely, but it's still in the realm.
Yeah, I've been digging Dulcich coming out for Russ. He's kind of really infused that offense. It's been neat to kind of see a transformation from them, just to have a tight end that can play at a pretty high level. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I also think that, we saw Sutton was really good for 5 games and then has been bad for
Yeah,
3.
that's like flipped entirely. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they can find a way to get both of those guys involved in the same game, they're that's where the offense can be unlocked and they can start putting up 28, 31 points instead of 17, 21 points, 9.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's how I feel about my Broncos.
But
What are your do you have any overall thoughts of the week?
thoughts of the week? I mean, I got slaughtered in fantasy. If you're listening to
Did
this in
you?
any of my leagues, you probably beat me. Yeah, I got the Chiefs Chargers combo bye was rough for me. I have a lot of Chiefs players. The Chiefs are probably like of all the NFL teams, probably the team I'm most invested in across all my leagues. I am loaded with Chiefs. I have lots of shares of Mahomes and Kelsey, and having them on bye did not help me. Yeah, and the Chargers are probably another like really high percentage ownership team for me, like top 5. So, how'd your fantasy week go?
So I had a great week.
Yeah,
Honestly, this was one of those weeks. I came into the week, and all the projections on the sites had me getting absolutely slaughtered,
yeah,
and I had tons of Deonta Foreman shares, and some other stuff too that played up for me. So I do have. It wasn't a great bye week for me with those things, but I just I won a bunch of games where I came in as an on paper underdog,
yeah.
and probably had my second best week of the season so far. Got myself back into a few leagues. I got myself back to 4-4 in some spots where I had opened up 2-4. And feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good about where this is heading.
Yeah, I had Pollard and AJ Brown together and lost in one of my leagues. If that doesn't, if that tells you kind of how things went for me.
Oh yeah, no, that's well. There were 3 or 4. No, there were 6 or 7 guys who really went off Henry. Foreman. You mentioned 2 of them: Pollard, Brown, McCaffrey. Right. So like you could have 2 of them and get caught on the wrong side of 2 of them also,
Yeah.
and then and then it's down to the secondary stuff, right? So my kind of overall thought of the week, transitioning out of that, is zero RB has sort of come alive over the last couple of weeks.
So good, yeah.
And it wasn't doing very well early in the season. Early in the season, a lot of the high drafted running backs were performing very well, and if you had a lot of the high drafted or just the heavy running back rosters were doing pretty well, and there weren't these very late breakout guys. But Deonta Foreman, I think that's a running back 2 for the rest of the season. I have so many shares of him. I know.
Yeah, me too.
We have him on 24/7.
Yeah.
Because he passed my eye test last year, and then he went and became the primary backup to a guy who couldn't stay healthy. I was expecting an injury, not a trade for CMC, but like you get multiple outs there, right? And a whole bunch of guys have really started to step up. We've got, Dameon Pierce has turned into something really good. Michael Carter is now back into a primary job. Josh Jacobs has been good for your zero RB builds all year. Latavius Murray has scored in back-to-back weeks. You bought him you bought him for Fab 2 weeks ago. Somebody in the Rams backfield and in the KC backfield is going to end up popping.
Yeah.
But
I'm starting Pacheco a few times next week. I'm already planning on that.
Yeah. Exactly, right? But there's a cheap guy you got in the rookie draft. Devin Singletary has been totally fine.
Yes.
If you have Foreman and Singletary going forward with 2 good quarterbacks on your Superflex roster, and then like a bunch of good receivers who you're running through your flex spots, you're in great shape, I think. The Gus Bus or Kenyon Drake, take your pick. Tony Pollard, Benjamin. Jamal Williams is leading the league in rushing touchdowns.
And Jamal's the big surprise, right?
Right. So a whole bunch of guys who, I have one team that came into the season and I was like, this is a hero RB build. It's got CMC and then Jamal Williams and Deontay Foreman. And then all of a sudden I got this running back mitosis and I'm a contender for the whole thing.
That's why it's so important to handcuff. Like we touched on that a little bit last week, but like let's really put it home. Like if you handcuff your players and one of them gets moved or hurt, all of a sudden you have like 2 starting options. So handcuffing is such a and on top of that, if it doesn't occur, if the transition doesn't happen, you're just safe. You're just safe, for when an injury happens to CMC or to like right now with Zeke and Pollard. Like Zeke could leave, get cut or whatever at the end of the year, and then Pollard.
You could have 2 running backs.
Yeah, and then Zeke. I mean, he's not going to leave the league. He'll go out there and be someone else's back, and now you have.
I believe Pollard is a free agent, right? So, or somebody could money whip Pollard and. Like Zeke could just go back to being the starting running back in Dallas, and you get the new starting running back in wherever Pollard goes, right?
Totally.
That's the other way around, right? So you can end up with 2. And the other thing is, it can be a cheap way, like instead of having to have, a third and a fourth starting back on your roster who's on your bench. You can purchase backup running, like Benjamin was a cheaper way to back up James Conner than getting another starting back.
Yes.
To back up James Conner, right? So even if you don't end up using them, they can end up being other moves you don't have to make, and so then you can put those assets into other things, right? But you see with guys like Foreman and Murray and Eno, you have to be aggressive at the right Drake. Right. These are all guys where if you're going to go this route, you have to take some shots early where you're just rostering guys naked.
Yeah.
And then also be aggressive with your fab when the right thing comes up. Right. Like, so Kenyon Drake is a guy is I think a great example. And Latavius Murray are 2 guys who you probably bought with fab during the season. Foreman, Jamal Williams, Gus Edwards, you probably had to get in the offseason. Eno may be a fab guy, right? Because remember, people thought it was going to be either Darrell Williams or Keontae Ingram.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of residual shares from Eno when I picked him up last year. It was like started to get some little bit of hype, a little bit of swirl around Eno last season. But
he hit waivers in a lot of leagues this offseason.
He did. I took a lot of like late round darts on Eno this season as well. He was, like him and Foreman and like... trying to think of another one like Sony Michel were all running backs that we were looking at in the later rounds.
Yeah, and you know what? Listen, I loved Foreman. I had a whole bunch of shares, and they're paying off already, and they're going to pay. I also loved Ronald Jones, and that has got that right, and that didn't work at all, and that's okay, right? You take 2 if you have 2 or 3 of these guys who you like, and you try to roster them, and one of them really hits and becomes that down the stretch high RB2 that you got for nothing, and that puts you over the top for 2 or 3 titles across your 20 leagues. That's big winning, and it's okay that the other guy you had on 6 teams didn't hit, right?
Yes, sir. Well said.
I think that's a big part of it. Is these guys do not have to all hit. They just have to some of them hit. Enough of them hit.
So moral of the story, the 0 RB strat is huge. Keep trying it. Keep going out there and doing it, or even a hero RB with like CMC or someone early. But just stack up those receivers and those quarterbacks in the middle rounds and the early rounds, guys. That's what we've been preaching all season. Yeah.
I love going hero RB with one big young running back who can be your hero RB.
Yeah, I like
4 seasons. So if you've got like that Kenneth Walker share, like, okay, now I can work on finding the pieces around him for the next 3 or 4 years, and I can stock up on these quarterbacks and these wide receivers in a full PPR who run through my flex spots. And I want to have 6 wide receiver 3 or betters, right? And that, and that's how you win these leagues where you're playing 3 wide receivers and 3 flexes.
Yeah. So is that about cover it though with the 0 RB thing?
I do think so. So
something I wanted to bring out, and I just wanted to touch on this because we're entering week 9 now. I mean, we're in the we're in the thick of things in the fantasy season. I mean, even the fantasy regular season is now on its second half, and it's something I want to touch on for our listeners out there, guys. Something to help you refocus, and that is it. It's just your mindset out here playing fantasy football. That's going to dictate a lot of your success. So just like in any other game you could play, whether you're playing baseball, football, basketball, whether you're golfing or shooting billiards or throwing darts, it doesn't matter because the mindset you have while you play the game is going to impact your success in it. If you're negative and you're feeling negative, you're feeling down and tilted, you're going to make bad decisions. You're not going to play as well. You're going to choose bad starters. You're going to make bad trades. And the inverse is true. If you stay positive, maybe not like hopefully optimistic about a team that's obviously bad, but like just staying clear-headed and not being down is going to lead to your most success. There's something I wanted to touch on. So I mentioned how I got slaughtered this week in one of my longer-standing leagues, a third-year league. In week 7, I wanted to share this with you guys. I lost a game 202.76 to 202.78. So I lost by 0.2 of a point.
One passing yard.
One rushing yard. Well, one passing yard is what I ultimately lost by.
Yes,
but,
exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yep.
The .02, one passing yard.
And at the time, I'm the number 2 team in the league playing against the number 1 team in the league. So kind of a pretty big game. We were the 2 highest scorers on the week. But the only reason I lost this game is because there was and I'm going to share this with some images on the screen. There was a Kenneth Walker stat adjustment, which took 1 yard away from him. I don't know if you guys are aware that this happened in week 7. But that's why I lost the matchup. I literally won it. Like I went to bed Monday night with all the games done, having a victory, and you can see it on the screen. It says 202.86, but that doesn't reflect what my actual score shows. But this could be so tilting if you let it. I mean, this would make you so aggravated and maybe make some bad decisions. But I just want to share with you one of my bad beats so that we can all coalesce together and not do stupid things because of bad beats. Like this happens. I literally lost a game and lost control of first place in one of my leagues because of a stat adjustment, and that's just sad, but it happens. So heads up on that. With that in mind, the other thing I want to touch on is don't count your chickens before they hatch with some of these things. Like you can't get overexcited, specifically with regards to like 2023 picks and prospect players. Like I like to go through and check and see where my picks are landing on these teams where I have multiple future firsts. But like I'll tell you right now, trying to project where these picks are going to land and make deals based off of that, and just thinking that you have all these home runs or trying to plan out what you're going to use these picks on is usually a bad idea. Don't get yourself locked into those kind of mindsets. Don't make trades thinking that some team is definitely going to make the playoffs and then they miss. That's happened to me plenty of times. So just like be careful with all that stuff. And most importantly, the single most important thing here is have fun, guys. Have fun playing this game. Don't be toxic in your leagues. I don't really talk trash to anybody. Like if you see someone maybe miss some starters in a lineup, they just missed. They started an out player or whatever. Maybe they left DK Metcalf on the bench this week, and then they lost the game and you wanted them to win or whatever. Like don't rip on them, don't flame, don't hate. Just have fun, enjoy the game. Just take everything as it comes, take everything in stride, and that's where you're going to get the most enjoyment out of your fantasy football experience. So just like a little mid-season reset for your mental in fantasy. That's what I'm here to provide for you.
Absolutely. I mean, those things also even out so much, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yep.
in the long enough run, all those things even out. And we have this cognitive bias where like we remember the bad call that costs our team the game, and we don't remember the bad call that wins our team a game as much. So if you get 10 of each, you remember the 10 times it cost you a game, and then you remember 1 or 2 times when it won you a game, right? And so like this that can make us toxic, right? So I agree with you, right? Like just those sorts of things even out, so you have to have a little bit of chill about, right? Like we remember the time when our guy does a Rashod Bateman and throws up a goose because they're questionable, they're playing, and then they go injured immediately. Right? We remember those times, but we don't remember the times it happened to our opponent and we won by 3 points.
Yeah, totally. There's a
yeah. roll with it.
There's a trade I wanted to share just because, like, right now, I think with this in mind is the best to do. So there's a league where I did, our multiple first strategy where I traded back for a lot of picks, but I still drafted some decently competitive players. And I'm 5-3 right now, and I had a league mate's first round pick, this dude named Edwin, and Edwin is currently 1-7 in 11th place in the league. And like I said, I'm 5-3, so I had Edwin's first, and he hit me up. He was real honest, and was like, "Hey man, I want my pick back. I know it's going to be expensive, so what can we do?" And I traded him his pick back. It's probably going to be a top 3 rookie, but who knows? Like I said, so that's why I'm comfortable moving it. But I sent him his pick back in exchange for Najee Harris and Khalil Herbert on my 5-3 roster where I'm competing. This could be any of those big time rookies coming out, a Young or a Stroud or a Bijan, and I just moved it. Just for some help, some gas. I don't know, do you think I was too kind to this guy? Because I can have a soft heart.
Well, I mean, look, I think I think you were, because I don't love Najee.
Sure.
Now. Like he scares me too much right now. For he scares me too much right now. Like he is not. They are telling us he is healthy and he is not passing the eye test as even the better running back in his backfield.
Yeah.
But like, I don't hate making a win now move. I don't know if that's going to help you this year.
No, Najee's going into bye, but I hope it helps me this year. We'll see.
Right. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I just like, is he going to come out of bye? Is he going to come out of bye better and right? Like, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't hate it in the long run. It wouldn't surprise me if at the end of the season we found out his foot was not right all year.
Sure.
And then he comes out and has a much better year next year. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And it also wouldn't surprise me at all if David Montgomery left in free agency and they didn't replace Khalil Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
So then you had 2 starting backs for your pick.
That's why it was worth a shot. I think.
But like, those are just two players. I'm a little. I don't hate the idea that you're trying to do there, but those are 2 players I'm a little sketch on in general and in terms of how they help you for this year. So I feel like I'd want to look at their roster and see what else I could do to give them their pick back.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some guys. He's got he's got Dameon Pierce. I could have attacked Deontay, Brandon Ayuk. I don't know. Like I said, I can be kind of overkind sometimes.
Pierce instead of Herbert would have made this deal feel better to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. I probably couldn't have got him to do that, but maybe I could.
I disagree. It's for a top 3 pick in next year's draft. Yeah,
Dameon and Najee, that would have been sweet. Yep. Yeah, that would have been cool. I didn't even ask.
That's to me, yeah. But see, like, I don't own any Khalil Herbert shares anyway, because like, I just don't. They keep telling me they're going to go back to David Montgomery, and I am concerned that after 2 years as the backup, he's not going to get the job. I'm concerned that what is going to happen next year, day 3 running back has no draft capital, and they draft somebody over.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Like, you acquired 2 players I don't know any shares of.
Sure. Yeah.
Actually, so like I like the idea, but I don't love the deal.
All right, well, that's my trade. That's my segment. We're going to go on to the show segment right now. This is going to be buy high and sell low with a Philo and Stash. So, why don't you start it off? Who are you buying high on after Week 8's games?
Okay, so one kind of archetype of a buy high that I like is a guy who has performed in ways that you were really hoping to see, and they've proven something to you that maybe they haven't quite proven to the rest of the league yet, and so you get in at that last second. For me, that's Terrace Marshall this week.
Yep.
Terrace Marshall. So I was kind of neutral to his overall valuation at the beginning during draft season a year and a half ago, right? And then during this past offseason, he had a terrible rookie year. During this past offseason, I was kind of bullish on buying him because they didn't bring anybody in. I thought he would get on the field a lot. And he has a really good pedigree. Like, this is a guy who was sandwiched between Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, and like, you know what I mean? So like in college. at LSU. So like
Yep.
and he's a really good physical specimen. He didn't produce a lot in college in that loaded receiver room. Anyway, so then the year starts and he's not playing at all. And I'm all the way like, ooh, I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of this. And then Matt Rule gets fired. They get rid of Robbie Anderson all at the same time. They immediately promote Terrace Marshall, who was not playing in 3 wide receiver sets. He's now the number 2 on the outside, right? So Shi Smith, who was the number 3 playing in the slot, got passed over when they traded Robbie Anderson. Mm-hmm. Right? And Terrace Marshall has kind of passed the eye test 2 weeks in a row. So to me, you're getting a guy who was a second-round NFL draft pick and a early second-round rookie draft pick. And you could probably get him for like a 3rd and a 4th right now, or like a pair of 3rds, 3rd this year, 3rd next year. I really like that price. And he was worth nothing 2 weeks ago. You couldn't have gotten him for 1/3, or you could have easily gotten him for 1/3, and I wouldn't have paid that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
When he wasn't playing.
Yep.
But like you're probably paying twice as much now as you were 2 weeks ago. But I think you still have an opportunity to get ahead of some buzz, right? If he has 1 week where he goes 4 for 80, which is what he did this week, 4 for 85, but he gets in the end zone, like all of a sudden the value will spike. And so I think you have a little opportunity here to get in.
Yeah, he's a good guy to get as like a throw in on a trade right now. Like if you're about to make a trade with an owner and it's like it's mostly fair, but you know they really want to complete it. Yeah, hey, you got Terrace Marshall? Why don't you let me get Terrace Marshall and we'll make a deal. It's like, all right.
Yes.
That's a good guy to do that with. I made a trade for Marshall in the offseason in one of my leagues. I traded Calvin Ridley straight across for Terrace Marshall after the whole dams broke on him. How do you feel about that? Would you rather have Terrace Marshall or Ridley right now, you think?
I mean, again, like 3 weeks ago, that would have looked terrible, and now I think it's back to a coin flip.
Sure, yeah, it's good.
Like they're both speculative pieces. I know we've seen the ceiling with Ridley. I do not trust Calvin Ridley after a bad season, and then he sits out 2 whole seasons basically. Yeah. I don't trust that because like we see that profile come back and just not be a thing, right? Like with Josh Gordon.
Yeah, we're like somebody's cool on Ridley on this channel. If you guys didn't know,
I don't think you're getting your first round or quality wide receiver back immediately or anything like that. I also think there are a lot of burned bridges in Atlanta. Yeah. There's a lot of uncertainty about landing spot. Whereas, I do think Terrace Marshall is going to get on the field all the snaps for the rest of this season, right? So he can help you this season, right? So if that team is a contender. Right, you've turned that into a thing. I think you can flex Marshall in the second half of the year, so I don't hate that at all. I gave up the 212 for Marshall in one of my leagues in the offseason.
Yeah, that's a smart trade.
Right. So 212 now would have ended up being like a Tyler Algier or something like that, right? I'm perfectly happy.
Marshall's the kind of guy too, where the Panthers are pretty bad. And they're going to have a higher pick, and they're probably going to take a shot on a QB. If they hit that shot, if they hit on a big-time quarterback like Allen-esque type deal, like Terrace Marshall is a guy who could just get on a rocket ship and go to the moon because of his talent profile. If all of a sudden they have an elite quarterback under center and this guy's starting and getting 10-plus targets from that QB, like Marshall could just explode in value and production. So it's really interesting.
And who's yours?
Free right now, so yeah.
Well, no, he was free too. That's the thing. He was free right 2
now.
Weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's no longer free, but I think he's worth what you have to pay.
Sure.
What's your buy high?
My buy high right now is a player that I've liked ever since his rookie season coming out. I'm going to be buying high on New England Patriots running back Rhamondre Stevenson. Rhamondre 24-year-olds from out of Oklahoma in his second year, is tearing it up. Rhamondre has 4 games in a row of 20 fantasy points. One of them was 19 and a half. So we're fudging the numbers there. But he's got 5 total games like that on the season. Rhamondre right now is on pace for over 1,000 rushing yards. He is on pace for a little over 70 targets. He's got 37 targets through 8 games right now. So 70 targets, and he has 4 touchdowns. I mean, you could be looking at right now in Rhamondre Stevenson, a guy who you probably could have gotten a double-digit round this past offseason in startup. 1,000-yard rusher with double-digit touchdowns and over 70 targets. Like, that's insane. That's a top 10 PPR running back every year, is a guy who can do that. And Rhamondre presents that kind of upside. It looks like he's really, Dameon Harris was hurt, and Rhamondre stepped into a lot of snaps, and it looks like he's kind of established himself since having that burst of playing time as the team's, number one rusher, number one option out of the backfield. Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, I don't really care which way you feel about them. Neither guy is ridiculously athletic in terms of running, so the tailback's pretty much always going to function as that man's legs, whoever's under center. And there's no reason why Rhamondre shouldn't keep up the production. I mean, he passes the eye test. He's big. He's physical. New England knows how to scheme him open. He's number 7 PPR tailback, and I don't know what he is on KTC right now. I think he's outside the top 10. But if you could get Rhamondre for if you could get a hold of Rhamondre for less than a 23 first, that's
would you?
Deal
okay, you're a contending team. Yeah. You're a contending team who has gone hero R.
Would I send my first for Rhamondre?
And you have failed to pick up that RB2, right? Yeah. You didn't have Foreman. You had Ronald Jones. You had so. Are you doing that? You're currently in the 3rd or 4th seed, but you think that there's upside beyond that.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. I would probably send out a flyer to Rhamondre's owner. That's something like, I get a little more back, where I send my first for like Rhamondre plus like a Terrace Marshall, like a deep bench player, and kind of feel them out. And then if it boils down would I make the one for one? Yes, I probably would. Yeah,
rental veteran for free. Somebody they're going to be wanting to get to trade for a thing, but they'll trade it to seal the deal.
Yeah, who's a guy like Thielen, maybe someone you could throw in.
Yeah,
I don't know how much juice he has. But
or like PJ Walker.
Yeah, yep. That'd be good.
You know what I mean? Like in a super flex.
Sure.
Right. So you need some injury depth, right? So that kind of thing. So I like that. That's good. Now I do want to warn people here, right? If you just look at the box score, it looks like Rhamondre, with Harris back this week, took the job. That's not true. If you look at the snaps, they were real. It looked like Harris actually went back into his old job. Now, what's clear, like Harris actually ran the same number of routes as Rhamondre.
Do you really?
For example,
I didn't know that.
Yes. So some stuff just fell Ramondre's way the first week they were back to splitting, and it could easily be next week. Harris has 3 short rushing touchdowns, and you're like, but Harris is also an impending free agent, and Rhamondre to me has shown a lot of talent. So I like this as a buy high anyway.
Yeah, then they just drafted the 2 RBs, so it's hard to imagine they extend the current tailback on their roster.
Right.
Yeah.
So I very much like this as a buy high, but I do think there is a chance that one could be fooled into thinking that Rhamondre is now the clear lead dog there. Yeah. I don't think I think it's the same full 50-50 split that it was before Harris hurt. So far. And that even could change. In a couple more weeks, if they go back to splitting 50-50 and Rhamondre is just better with the ball for a few more weeks. But I do think Harris is a pretty good player who is likely to keep his share of the touches for the rest of this season. Yeah, so just grain of salt.
Stevenson's had 70 rushing attempts in the last 4 games combined, plus a bunch of targets too, 16. Yeah, plus 23 target. Like he's looking good. I agree. Harris is still going to have a role, but
that role may include goal line too.
It may.
So just be be careful about that one little thing. Like I don't think you're buying your RB1 to go win you a title. If that's the way one is looking at this. Yeah. But I do think he's a great buy high candidate. Who'd you sell up?
All right, I'll go myself. I'll sell it. All right, I'm selling a guy. I'm selling a darling from this past offseason in Superflex. Somebody that everyone I talked to, everybody seemed to like this player. And let me tell you, he hasn't really done anything. And that's Davis Mills, quarterback for the Houston Texans. I'm selling this guy in my Superflex leagues. I do have a good bit of shares, and I am shopping him. In the past offseason, I was able to move Davis Mills straight across for a 2024 first-round pick. If I can make a deal like that with any of my shares, I'd be interested. You don't think so? That's too low.
I think you have no chance.
You probably can't do that now, but if
I wouldn't. There is no time. There is no time when I would have done that. But I would have been blown away at that. And I remember when you did that, I was pretty blown. Yeah. But I don't think you'd get a second for Davis.
You probably can't, but I would, if you could. It's worth exploring, especially with all these bye weeks. You can maybe find a team that's looking for a QB, and some people might not even really be tracking how down he's been and still think, oh yeah, I like this guy. I mean, it's a feel good story, but there's really no emotion in this game we play. So Davis Mills has been bad. I'm not going to get into every minutia of his stats, but the Texans are 1-5-1, and they are in sole last place in the AFC right now. They're probably going to have a top 5 pick. Might even be the number 1 overall pick. They will be looking to replace Davis Mills with that pick.
For sure.
Mills will be a handcuff or a week 1 or 2 starter until whatever rookie they bring in becomes the starter. Bad to say about the man, but yeah, Davis Mills is not a long-term asset for your fantasy team, unfortunately.
Oh, that is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
So, this actually brings me to a personal dilemma that I'm having with one of my teams.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a team in what I would consider to be maybe my premium league. Mm-hmm. And I'm the 2-time defending champ. And I started 2-4 and won my last 2 to get back to 4-4. Okay. I have no quarterback this week. Gosh. I am just I need Russell Wilson to get back right, and I need Deshaun Watson to come back. And my other guy was Matt Ryan, who got benched. And I couldn't get Ellinger, right? So I got nothing.
Yeah.
Had I lost this week and gone to 3-5, I think I would have packed it in and looked to sell high on some Josh Jacobs and some of that stuff, right? But man, my team is good. I got Nick Chubb. I got Josh Jacobs. I got both Eagles wide receivers and Stephon Diggs and Chris Godwin and CeeDee Lamb. It's a great team, but my quarterbacks are murdering me. What would you give up in a situation like that for Davis Mills? Would you make me the sell low, the guy on the other end of this sell low? How much should I give up in that situation
for Mills? I mean, your second round pick's going to be late. You probably don't want to move a late second round.
I'm in the 7th. I'm in the 7th or 8th seed right now.
Yeah,
I'm 4-4.
I mean,
my second round pick could turn early.
Sure. I like when you're confused. Well, not confused, but when you don't know what to do. I always like moving back a year. So 24 second, maybe that gets it done with Mills owner. Maybe you have to make it a 24 second plus a 4th round this year just to give them some little juice, make it think they're getting a 2-for-1 out of it.
Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
You get a different quality handcuff for next year.
Sure. Yep. Maybe you can find one of your, you take all those shots on those backup RBs. Maybe you can send that guy a handcuff for one of his tailbacks. I don't even know. Maybe he's a Walker owner and you could send him a DJ Dallas or something like that. I don't know. But that's kind of would be my approach.
Would you send Devin Duvernay across, or would you need something back with it?
That's tough.
He's my 6th or 7th receiver.
Yeah, I mean, if you can fill that need, that's where That's where you're getting juice, and we know Mills is going to start the rest of the season, right? He's not going to get benched or anything, so you'll get.
I don't think so. Yeah,
you're not going to.
Well, he should
have
at least get me to week 12, and Watson and Wilson. Then I don't need him anymore.
Yeah, I would explore Duvernay. That'd be fine. Because I mean, what did you pay to get Duvernay? You probably got him for like nothing.
I traded Rex Burkhead for him week 1 when Burkhead got.
Yeah, and that's how you keep flipping that coin. I like
that. The day after Burkhead went, got all the carries. Remember that one?
Yeah, I remember. Yep, it was like week 2, I think.
I flipped him for. And then week 2, Burkhead got 0 carries.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good one. So anyway, that's there. So I don't love trading my picks, but I like trading from these players. Like,
yeah, I like Duvernay as a swap.
Okay, so
Duvernay's worth more than Mills, I think.
If you are the Mills owner, are you taking Devin Duvernay? He's your quarterback 4.
Yeah, just because I want to exit him, I probably would. And it's weird because you don't know what the Ravens are going to do long term at receiver. Like they keep bringing guys in every single year. I probably would take Duvernay because you can start him. I mean, he's a startable asset. Totally start him in your flexes any week. I like that. I like that as a 1-for-1 swap. Yep.
All right. That's it. That's it.
Would I actually do it? Would I if someone sent me Duvernay for Mills in a place where I own him? Would I hit accept on that? I might have to ask him for more. I'd probably explore asking for more because I'm greedy.
Yeah, you are, and I would say, but like that, I'm not giving you something with Duvernay.
Yeah.
My question was, do I need to ask for something back?
No.
With Mills?
No.
Like a 4th. No. Okay. Ellinger. He's also got Ellinger.
Ooh.
The same owner. The same owner's got Ellinger. You asking? Would you rather have Ellinger or would you rather have Mills?
Mills. I think.
You feel safer for this year with Mills?
Yeah, I mean, neither of them are going to do anything long term, then, right? Like neither of them is their team's 23 starter. I mean, what are the odds that that's actually Ellinger right now?
Well, he's got to win some games and win a bad division.
Yeah.
Then he could do that, right?
The Colts have their first though, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if he wins enough games to get into the playoffs, the top four quarterbacks could be off the board before they pick. Right?
Yeah.
That's my I mean, I don't know, but Ellinger also has to keep Nick Foles off the field.
Yeah, I picked up Nick Foles a lot. I took a lot of $0 flyers on him.
All right, well, I think that's enough on Davis Mills.
Who you selling, brother?
I'm selling Zeke.
Selling him. Get rid of Zeke.
Selling him.
Don't want him anymore.
I've been wanting to say Zeke for a while.
Yeah.
He was like when we were putting together we do a show, like a Google Doc for the show. I often will put 2 or 3 guys on there just in case, the conversation sprawls a little bit. And Zeke has been like the second guy on my list 3 weeks in a row. It's like Tony Pollard breaking out. I think it's finally time. Tony Pollard had the big breakout week. The Cowboys said publicly since then, when Zeke is healthy, Zeke is going to be back on the field. Right? I think like you use that to trade him, get a 2nd round pick, get out. This isn't going to get better. He's old for a running back. But his numbers so far per game are good. And I think he will be playable all the rest of this season. Trade him to a contender who needs who's going 0 running back and needs to go do something, with that, they haven't hit. They need to go do something. Like they don't want to give up a first for Rhamondre, right? But like they're looking to give up a pair of thirds. I don't know. Like if you're non-contending, I would take probably a pair of thirds for Zeke. Certainly, I would take a 2nd. I would take a 24 second for Zeke if I'm non-contending, right? Or I would take a 24 second for Zeke if I were a contending team, and he was like way down my my list, and I didn't need him, right? Like I think that's a good name to go that way. What do you think?
No, I like it. I bought Zeke a few weeks ago for a 23 second in a league where I'm competing, and also just have a buttload of picks, both at the same time. But yeah, I think he can go. Pollard showed so much; it makes you almost think they're going to backtrack on what they said about Zeke being on the field. I mean, I'm sure he'll be on the field, but like, and I feel like he'll be their starter too. But like, boy, Pollard just made so much noise this week, man. He looked really really good as a lead back. It's
Yes, you just feel like Zeke is going to get enough opportunity, or you feel like Pollard is going to get enough opportunity that it will really really hurt whatever you're looking at with Zeke.
Yep, I agree with you.
All right, so let's have a quick look at our podcast league or our show league, 24/7 365. We have suddenly started winning some games.
Yeah, we won this week. We knocked off the number one team in the league, 6-1 team, and we beat them. They were at not at full strength. Had a lot of buys on their side, but we did it.
They did. They did have some crucial buys on their side, and then the Carr and Jacobs decided to take an unscheduled buy along with the entire Raiders offense. That really helped us. But yeah, like we're getting back to 3-5 now. We're still 2 games out of the playoffs and not in the best shape for tiebreakers. So like that would be a hard get. And I'm still in selling mode where I want to sell Deonta Foreman.
Fields is
what do you
great,
think?
man. Fields, talk about him for a minute and just how he's turned it up and been running around and scoring touchdowns, and he's the according to this thing, it says he's a top 12 quarterback right now. So Justin Fields showing out.
Yeah. What would you give up for Justin Fields right now?
What would I give up for Justin Fields right now? Man, I don't know. I would have a hard time buying him just because still pretty small sample size of good play of only the last like 4 weeks or so. Who's a good player? I don't know. Would you trade Russell Wilson straight across for Justin Fields right now?
Probably.
Yeah, I think I would.
Would you trade your contending 23 first and something to get him? And what would the and be?
If I needed the quarterback, yeah, I probably would. And the and would
what would the and be?
Some younger receiver on my team. Or maybe I'd like, instead of setting a first and second this year, I'd split the pair and make it a 24 second. So I'm not moving all my stuff in one season.
There you go.
A late 23 first with a kicker sounds about Fields' price, and I'd be comfortable paying it if I needed a QB.
If you were contending,
yeah.
Let's just say all your quarterbacks were out this week.
Yeah, like if I was leaning on Matt Ryan and now I'm one QB in it. Now I can do something like that.
I got a couple of those. Mm-hmm. I got a couple of those where I'm like a legit contender and I lost Matt Ryan.
Yeah, it's rough.
I got another one where my quarterback room is Mahomes, Brissett, and I'm 6-2.
Is it sustainable for Fields? I think that's the question. Do you expect him to keep playing well, and just keep growing, or is this gonna sputter out? What is your projection on that?
I am willing to throw a dart. I liked the prospect coming out.
Yeah,
and he has been given so little to work with. The offensive line is atrocious. The receiving core, Equanimous St. Brown is the number 2 receiver there. Like, how did this happen? I mean, listen, we liked some dart throws who have really panned out this offseason, and one I really liked. I want to put this on you. One I really liked who has not panned out, partly for health reasons, is Byron Pringle. But the fact that I thought Byron Pringle had a decent chance to get a ton of work and play 85% of the snaps for this team, like, should say everything about what a disservice they did to him with that receiving core. And it's he's finally starting to figure out how to make it work. And I am more in than out. I'm not all the way in. I'm not 2023 and 2024 first in.
No, I'm not either.
But I am more in than out. I think he's more likely to make it than not.
Yeah, did you see there was some headline that was like the Bears have some ridiculous amount of cap space. They're going to be number 1 in cap space entering this offseason. So hopefully they can spend big on someone. Probably see a Christian Kirk-esque like type, quote unquote overpay to bring in.
Well, they finally have picks too.
Yeah,
right?
And they have picks too. Yep.
So and hey, listen, Chicago isn't Jacksonville. People like to live in Chicago. You know what I mean? Like, I think there are other problems with Jacksonville besides, the Jaguars. You know what I mean? Like
that
people want to live in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't get endorsements playing in Jacksonville. So I don't think Chicago has quite those same problems, even though they've been bad for a while. It's a storied franchise, So I think they can pay market price for whatever the best thing out there.
What are we doing with this 24/7 team though? I mean, we won. We're 3-5, so we're just gonna keep starting our best lineup and maybe keep winning some games. I don't know. I would definitely look to sell Foreman.
If we sell Foreman, we're not going to be good. We're not going to be competitive.
No.
Right. If we're going to have a late season run, it's going to involve something like Foreman and McKinnon are a low running back 1 and low running back 2 over the last 8 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
And then
the quarterbacks just give you an advantage, and the receivers play well enough.
And the quarterbacks, right? And Allen Fields just buoys everything. Maybe Ayuk, maybe Claypool gets traded and gets some more, and then maybe Claypool gets traded and then both Pickens and Claypool get more targets down the backside, right? So there's some things that could happen. But it has to be Foreman, right? So we would have to get a second round pick minimum to move for him.
This guy Caseman has just put his 23 first on the block. Do we send him Foreman for that pick? Just see what he says.
No, he says no.
Yeah, I know, but you just gotta open up the
no. So like, but like what? Like no, you said, but what might he say yes to Foreman and?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, it's B Matt, this guy who's 5-3. It's his pick that the other guy's trading. So like,
Foreman and Schultz.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Wasn't this the guy that was looking at Schultz and we didn't make a trade?
Let me look at Case Maz.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I know.
No, let's try that. I like that a lot. Let's try that out.
Yeah, you want to make a greedy first offer, but like if you get too greedy, then you lose your reputation. So I like that offer.
No, you're right. You do, and I try to stay credible. I really do. Let's send this out. Maybe he'll counter us. I like sending out a trade live. It's good.
Good. I like it.
But speaking of trades and all the happy trade stuff, the NFL trade deadline is fast approaching. So we're recording this on the Tuesday, 11/1, and the NFL trade deadline is at 4 p.m. today, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And
it's 5 hours from now. Yeah.
Yep. What moves are you expecting to see out there? Any players or teams that you're thinking will be active at the NFL trade deadline?
I have a hard time believing that Chase Claypool stays where he is. I think fantasy-wise, right? They're going to be moves. There are going to be moves, linebackers and offensive linemen and things like that we're not going to talk about.
Sure.
Fantasy-wise, I think wide receiver movement is probably the most likely thing. I do think Chase Claypool is probably I know they're supposedly asking a lot, but I don't really think they want to keep all three of those guys going into next year. I kind of think a second and a day 3 pick would get him. Maybe even a high third and a day 3 pick would get you Claypool, and I think somebody might do that. And then on the buying side, I think Green Bay is going to come to the realization that they're in a short contending window, and unlike the Bears and the Falcons, who did not do enough with their receiving core, like they need to do something now, right? The Bears and the Falcons can wait till next year, if because they're not in their contending window. The Packers need to bring somebody in.
Yeah, Green Bay needs to have some kind of like come to Jesus moment with their receivers and make a move.
It strikes me that they will probably make one of these moves. There have been a lot of rumors around the Giants also being somebody to add a wide receiver, and then two other wide receivers who seem to be pretty on the block are Brandon Cooks and Elijah Moore, and all of that makes sense. So I think something in that group of moves will happen. And then at the running back position, Kareem Hunt is probably the name we hear a lot about, and then the Rams is the destination we hear a lot about. So maybe Hunt to the Rams, maybe Melvin Gordon to the Rams. I kind of think the Rams will probably bring in a running back, but there are a few options. I don't know who they're going to bring in.
Buffalo could still be a player at the running back position too. I could see Kareem Hunt showing up in Buffalo would be really similar to what we thought CMC could have brought to that team. I mean, he just would have had a whole nother layer, a whole nother dimension. I mean, nothing bad to say about Singletary or Cook, but like Kareem Hunt's, as someone who's watching him every week as a Browns fan, like Kareem Hunt's still got a lot left. He's still Kareem Hunt. He's still real good.
Philly keeps getting rumored to be around for running backs, but I don't really get that. I think Miles Sanders is a perfectly good player.
If I'm Philly, I'm not stirring the pot at all with what you're doing on the whole team. I mean, maybe you trade for like a depth defensive lineman piece or something, but your offense is so gel right now that I wouldn't. I'll just ride with what your offense is doing.
Right, like you could a nickel corner or something like
like a little bit of depth on the defensive side, but I wouldn't. I don't think Philly needs that anything at all.
No, but so what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think we'll actually end up seeing in the next 5 hours?
What are we going to see in the next? I think you expect the Rams to be players. They're too aggressive not to be. I'm not sure how many picks they actually have remaining, but whatever picks they do have, if they can get an impact player on offense, they're absolutely going to do that. Be it Cooks or Hunt or whoever. I would love to see Claypool traded, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it should. I do think it should, but I just don't think the Steelers are going to let him go. I don't think the Steelers are going to make any moves that indicate that they're not trying to win and be competitive. Elijah Moore, I think, is probably the most likely receiver to move. I don't know. Him or Cooks are high probability of moving. I could definitely see the Texans trading Cooks. They're probably not going to get the second round ask that they have for it. I think Cooks to Green Bay makes a lot of sense because they're gonna. Green Bay should. I know the reports have said they want someone on a rookie deal, but it seems like a veteran's what's going to fit the best. And I mean like a real veteran, like not a Claypool third-year veteran, like a 6th or 7th-year veteran, like a Brandon Cooks, who can come in and just help immediately. Like the week he shows up, be playing and doing stuff. And that's what Rodgers is going to want. He's not going to want anyone that like still needs to develop. Rodgers wants a real NFL receiver added to this roster, and that's Brandon Cooks. So if there's one single move that I'd put my chips on, it would be the Pack making a move for Brandon Cooks, specifically the Rams getting a tailback of some kind, maybe Hunt. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about Akers moving either the other direction in that deal or?
I don't think Akers is going to get traded. They've been too upfront with like trading him.
You think they're going to cut him?
I think Akers is going to ride the season out and then be off the team in the offseason. I have no idea what happened, but whatever this negativity that's swirling around is, I could totally see that happening.
It's crazy to me that if you're really going to cut him, you wouldn't get like, we'll send him.
Yeah,
we'll send him with a 7th, and you give us your 6th.
Yeah, yep.
It's crazy to me that you couldn't at least get that kind of deal.
Well, who knows what happened, and I don't know. And then whatever NFL team maybe makes a move for him is going to want insight into whatever happened, and maybe it's bad. I don't know. I take a very reserved approach to these types of situations with a lot of unknowns. And
it's true. Like you never know. You could find out 2 weeks from now there's a serious criminal investigation.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. But I take it back though because it's not that. Or they right? You know what I mean?
So he said.
I don't know. They might just put him on like if they found out that there was a murder for hire investigation that was touching into him or something like that. They're not gonna try to drop that on another team, right? You know what I mean? Right? Like you just have to take the hit if that happens to one of your players, right? Or you lose your reputation if you knowingly chip that off for a 6th round pick. You know,
Mhm.
without the fact that they announced that they wanted to trade him makes me think it can't be that bad. I don't know. I don't know. It's very strange. It is one of the strangest things in a very strange year.
It's been a wild year. It has been. It's been a crazy year.
I do think, I do think the Rams have to add somebody at the running back. What do you make of the Giants, and what do you make of the Tony trade?
Um, the Tony trade is interesting for the Chiefs for sure. Like, I don't for the Giants side, I'm happy they got rid of him because it seemed like there was a rift there, and whenever there is that type of rift, you just gotta kind of cut bait, and I think that's like what originally led us to where we're at with Claypool. Is it seemed like there was a rift there, but it doesn't seem like there is that anymore. So I don't know. I don't know how well these things heal from place to place, but
It does seem like that's where we're still at with Elijah Moore.
yes, yeah, and Elijah Moore, it does seem like there's problems there, so that's why I think he should get moved. Um, but the Giants, man, yeah, let him go, and just if I'm the Giants, I'm probably not active at the trade deadline. I just hold on to the picks you have, hold on to the players you have, and just like you have to just bunker down when you're in the situation the Giants are and be all in house and rally around each other and just it's us against the world mentality has to be what they're up against. You know, being so successful and just let your coach be the leader and let it let this thing happen organically and enter the off season with all of your assets at your disposal. And then hand pick receivers and stuff that you want and don't when you're trading for a receiver you're limited to the ones that are available. So like you know don't put yourself in that position of hurt if you're New York. Just keep going, keep trying your best, and draft players. Be my opinion.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know there was a lot of talk about them wanting Jerry Jeudy. I think the Broncos winning with Jeudy being the leading receiver the last 2 weeks probably makes him not really available. But he played for Dable at Alabama when Dable was the OC, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I think that's the kind of move they might make.
I don't think Judy's moving though. I see such.
No, I don't think he's moving, but like somebody who has a connection to the coaching staff.
Sure.
That is the kind of move I could see the Giants making. But you do hear a lot of heat around that, around them making some sort of wide receiver move. I don't know. All right, well, so we'll find out in a few hours. Oh, one last one I wanted to mention. There is some smoke around Nyheim Hines being traded, which would be a buy Hines, buy Deion Jackson double move.
Oh yeah,
right, like Hines could be very cheap now, and if somebody traded, like if the Rams traded for Nyheim Hines, that could be a league winner, right? Like in your redraft leagues, they could give him the lead job conceivably, and he could for the rest of this season be like a running back 2.
Yeah, he could get
from nowhere,
8 or 9 targets a game and a really high snap share.
Who knows, right?
For him in that Rams offense, yeah.
And then Deion Jackson becomes the clarified handcuff to Jonathan Taylor, who is having ankle problems.
Yeah, Deion could be, be like a league winner type almost at that point.
Right. So you got that double look there. Those might be some moves you could make in the next couple of hours. I don't know if this will get up in time, but if somebody hears about that and like just looking, I don't know, if you're just looking to make at which cuts to make, don't cut those guys today.
Don't cut Deion. Yeah, I'm still sitting on Deion everywhere I have him.
Yes. Well, I had a cut where I didn't cut him, but I was thinking about cutting him. Right, he was one of the guys that made sense, and I'm holding him for this news. Right, so have a look. See, are there any guys? Last question here: are there any guys you would cut if they don't get traded? Like, for example, is Alberto a cut if he doesn't get traded at the deadline?
Yeah, probably because Dolchich is the man, and there's no.
Are there any other guys besides him who you've been holding, waiting to see if there's a move?
Boy, not really. I don't think. There's no one I've been camping, waiting for there to be a trade on.
Dearnest.
Yeah, there's been I've been taking shots at the Browns backfield beyond Hunt. Yes, I have. I've been taking.
So you can move on from D'Ernest if there's no trade by the deadline.
I think so. Yeah, you could probably cut him. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd cut D'Ernest just because even if there's no trade, he still functions as like this double dip handcuff to where if either of those guys get hurt. But like I have Felton and Ford, each of the depth running back pieces for the Browns right now, and I would definitely let all those shares go if there's no trade. I like D'Ernest as like that kind of handcuffy role though.
Okay, very good.
I think that's about it for us.
I think that's about it.
Yeah. So why don't you send us out today, sir?
All right, guys. Hit your like and subscribe. This has been us for week 8. And as always, a lot of fun coming at you. Go get yourself some wins this week. Have a good one. We'll see you guys next week.
Good stuff. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. Have a good one.